Welcome back to Idaho Hook and Hunt. Today, this is July of 2022 on Payette Lake in McCall, Idaho. This was the first year after the biologists had made a several years effort to remove some of the lake trout from this fishery and improve the kokanee fishing as well. As you will see from this video, he did very well. Stay tuned. We catch a lot of very large fish, as you see with my daughter Taylor here. We also caught a lot of doubles, and these fish were consistently 18, 19 inches. So stay tuned to see some of that today, because we catch a lot of these and we do very well today. We are on my friend Tom's boat. My daughter Taylor is also here with us, as you saw from that picture earlier.
Good fish though. Oh yeah.
A little ways still, huh?
I did about 40 feet long. I put 50 out when I did come in.
Much nicer fish, isn't it?
It's not as big as that first one.
Not as big as the first one?
Trying not to horse him in too much.
Yeah.
There's a good one. He just came to the surface.
Yeah. Oh, he's taking line. Holy cow. So as we're fighting this double, I am going to go over our setup for the day with you. Now, bear with me because I'm going largely off of memory, as this was 4 years ago. But I do know that what we have going here is we've got two downriggers running. We're double stacked on both of those downriggers. The one that on the left side here, the red rod that I'm holding was the top rod on the downrigger. That was down around 30 feet. And then the one that's straight out the back right in front of me is the bottom rod on that downrigger, down around 40 feet. The rod that's just off my left shoulder is not in a downrigger. That is running something called a dipsy diver. That's something I used to run before I started running clip weights on my line. It's basically a diver that's attached in the line a few feet ahead of the dodger. They work quite well. The reason I don't use them any longer, though, is I don't like having to have that weight on there the whole time while I'm fighting fish, so now I use clip weights instead. But that's what's on that rod. And then the two rods on the right, the one that Tom has a fish on right now is the top rod on that downrigger. Again, down around 30 feet. And then the back rod that's in front of him on that right side, we were running a rod deeper to try and target some of the lake trout that are in this lake. And
I might have to grab yours.
As we go through this video, you will see that rod actually does get some action toward the end of the video, so stay tuned to see what we catch on that rod. That rod is running about 60, 65 feet down. I believe at this point he's running a cut plug or something of the sort on it. Later he does switch over to a cut plug herring, which does get some action later on, so stay tuned. Double right there.
Yeah. Well, this one's still not in yet, though.
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm ready. I'll show you thought. Get that head up. Whoop.
definitely bigger than I thought he was originally, because he wasn't fighting that much. I want to horse him in the pull them up and then they get off.
Get his head up. Watch out of the line.
All right. Sure.
You want to step on up, I'll come in.
Pole's kind of in the way right there.
We're all right.
Come in now, but I'll bet when he sees the boat, he's going to take off again.
I'm sure he will.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice.
That's a beautiful fish. Fish on. Here. On this one again, on the orange one. Oh yeah.
So being that this trip was 4 years ago, I do not remember what dodgers and color combinations with what lures I was using on this trip. I do know that for the most part I was using Kokobo gear because of, as I've mentioned multiple times, I am pro staff for Kokobo tackle. If you have interest in getting a hold of some Kokobo tackle, I have linked the website for kokobotackle.com in the description on this video. Tom just brought up that deep rod that I mentioned earlier, and it looks like he was running a flatfish on that rod. He's going to re-rig it here in just a moment and put a cut plug herring, so a herring bait in a kind of in a helmet as a cut plug. He's going to put that down there for those lake trout, like I mentioned earlier, and it is actually going to get some action here later on in the video. This fish was caught on that rod that I told you has a dipsy diver on it. For those of you who don't know what a dipsy diver is, this is a dipsy diver coming up on screen here right now. They are highly effective at getting you down to depth without having to have a downrigger. But like I said, I do not use them any longer because now I use clip weights. They're just more convenient because they can be taken off the line. You don't have to fight the weight along with the fish as you bring it in. So as I get this fish landed here in a moment, you will see that dipsy diver. It's probably 3 to 4 feet ahead of my dodger. And it just makes it a little harder also to get those fish to the net, just because you can't reel the dodger up as close to the end of your rod to get that fish lifted up to the net.
Okay, got it.
Oh, got a whole thing. Oh,
No, he's still there. Just coming in.
Running for the boat. Look at that guy.
Coming right at him. Until he gets here.
Oh, crap. There we go.
Oh yeah, it's a big hook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Come up. I'll met him.
So this is that rod that we had set down 65 feet for lake trout with about a 6-inch cut plug herring on it and probably a 3/0 hook. So when this rod got hit, we were kind of excited, thinking maybe we got one of those big lake trout to bite. However, it does turn out to be another kokanee, but a very big kokanee. Also, you're going to see in just a moment that this turns out to be a double. You're going to see this rod right in front of Tom go off here in just a moment. There it goes right there. So one thing that happened a lot on this trip is very memorable because we caught a lot of doubles. It seemed like almost every time we got a fish on, we would have another rod go off within a minute or two of the first rod going off. And I believe there are reasons for that. Stay tuned to my videos coming up. I have one coming up here in the next week or so that I'm going to explain a little bit about what I do that encourages doubles, that I think contributes to the number of doubles that I tend to get on my boat. And it's something I've never heard any other kokanee fishermen talk about. So stay tuned to that video. It'll probably come out in the next week or week and a half. I'm going to talk about this and how I learned it. But this day was a ton of fun because we got doubles all day long. Almost every time we had a fish on, we caught a double. You already saw one double in this video. This is a second one, and you will see more as we continue with this trip.
That's bizarre though, on that herring.
Yep, on the herring. And they say they just eat plankton.
Yeah, that's good. Go out on that one, huh?
You know, the thing is, though, I mean, they're certainly not taking kokanee baits as a herring. It's an aggression
Yeah.
strike, you know, something that's in there.
Hey, you're in my
their
way.
territory. It's a herring, they can do the same thing with it, too. Maybe for the tournament next week, we'll have to drop a herring deep.
Well,
You get one of those big
plugs do
kokanees.
the same thing, you know.
Yeah. The only issue with the cut plugs that I have is I don't think they hold on to them as well because they're a hard bait, and I don't get as good a hookups.
Okay, so you heard Taylor earlier, but you haven't seen much of her yet. And the reason why is this was actually quite a pretty early morning. I think we finished this whole day. We were done by like 9:30 or 10. So it was still pretty early. She had gotten up really early to get here. So she was pretty tired this morning. She's also only 5 at this time. So she spent most of the first part of the trip, just like you see here, snoozing on the seat of the boat. But she just woke up and now she's ready to catch some fish. Like I mentioned on a previous video, she's happy as long as she catches the first and the biggest fish. Now she was asleep for she wasn't asleep for the first fish, but she does catch the biggest fish of the trip right here.
Keep going.
All right. Got that fish.
It's already going. Feels like a big one? It is a big one. Keep going. Still going. Go. Oh, oh. Keep going. Don't stop. There you go.
Yep, was that one set up?
One more.
Exactly, yeah, what I'll get this one set up.
There we go. Keep coming. You're doing it. Nope, it's still there. Yep, you see it right there? Coming up with another line again. Keep going, Haley. Caught with that one. Got it. Good job. That's a big fish, Haley. Rods, because one's going to end up going off any moment.
Okay, so another thing I want to
Yeah,
talk about
fish.
here is Tom's fighting this fish, because we were talking about it here on the boat. This is a subtle thing that, as the driver of the boat, can help tremendously in getting these fish landed. Now, many of you, if you're experienced, you probably already know this, but for those who may be new to kokanee fishing, new to trolling in general, this can be really, really helpful to the guy who's fighting that fish. So in this case, you see Tom has this fish. It's on the right side of the boat there. What you want to do if you're driving the boat is turn the boat into that fish. So if the fish is on the right, turn the boat to the right. And what that does is it just turns the boat a little bit sideways to where that fish is coming in. And so it gives you more space to fight that fish. You can see those lines that are straight out the back of the boat. If you were to keep it straight, or even worse, turn the boat to the left a little bit, what it's going to do is going to have that fish come in right behind the boat and right in where all those lines are, which this fish kind of wanted to do anyway, but it just makes it a lot harder. So here we got a double coming in. This rod on the right, this red one's about to get hit as well. There that goes. So get that fish netted. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that fish may have been a trout. We did catch one trout on this trip. And I think that might have been it. I know Tom caught one, but otherwise it was all kokanee all day. So one other thing, if you guys are enjoying this video of Payette Lake, I also did another video on Payette a couple of weeks ago. It was from June of 2025, and I will link that video in the description to this video as well.
We've got time. I still got 55 feet out there. Okay.
I just found the double cherry. This one looks like the other.
Okay.
And this also looks like an
Yeah.
apple.
Like I said, as soon as we get into one, we get another one.
Yeah, oftentimes, huh? Yeah, just up from those sheriff's boats.
Yeah. He's on the boat.
Yeah, he did.
And he just peeled off on his 15 feet of line right there. Fish on.
All right, as we come down toward the end of this video, I want to kind of do a recap of this video as well as a little bit of a projection of what we're looking at for 2026 with Payette Lake as well as our other reservoirs here in southwest Idaho. So again, this was July of 2022. Prior to this video, the biologist who handles Payette Lake had been making a very concerted effort to remove lake trout out of Payette Lake. And then the other thing that he was doing was he was putting a weir in the Payette River above the lake in the fall, capturing the kokanee that were going up to spawn in the Payette River, spawning those kokanee out, and then raising the eggs in a hatchery and putting them back into Payette Lake. Now, the first 4 years that he was doing this, and I believe 2022 was the third year of this, he was putting in 500,000 kokanee fry every year into Payette Lake. And so this was one of those years that he'd been putting 500,000 kokanee in, and the results were obvious as this lake came on in 2021, 2022. These fish in 2022 were just incredible. They were plentiful and they were large as well. Now, that being said, I hear people all the time talking about lakes like Anderson Ranch that had really big kokanee a couple years ago. Now they're all tiny. The thing with with kokanee in general and all of our reservoirs, all of our lakes, kokanee are very cyclical fish. They have a 2 to...
Oh, is he on this one?
Generally a 2 to 3 year life cycle. In some places they'll go for 3 or 4 years, but generally a 2 to 3 year life cycle. Now that they are also a density dependent fish, so their size is dependent on how many fish are in a reservoir and how much food availability there is. So the more fish there are, the less food availability there is, and generally they tend to be small, which is what we saw at Anderson Ranch last year in 2025. There were a lot of fish in there. They had reproduced naturally in the river really well that year, and so what we saw was an abundance of very small fish. It had nothing to do with planting. Those fish had not been planted in the reservoir to get to the population that there was. They weren't over planted or anything of that sort. They just had a really good natural spawn. And then another contributing factor may have been the fact that in 2023 there was not a lot of water let out of Anderson Ranch Reservoir, and so those fish did not flush out into Arrow Rock because kokanee are a fish that they're a sockeye salmon. They do go down with moving water, especially when they're fried. They will follow moving water, trying to go to the ocean. It's called entrainment. They will move from Anderson Ranch into Arrow Rock, from Arrow Rock into Lucky Peak, and from Lucky Peak out into the New York Canal, down toward Lake Lowell, down toward the Snake River. They never make it to the ocean. They die somewhere along the way once they get out of Lucky Peak. However, they always move down. Well, 2023, there was not a lot of water let out of Anderson Ranch. And so those fish that had hatched out in Anderson Ranch in 2023 all stayed there, and that's the fish we were catching last year in 2025. None of them flushed into Arrow Rock, or very few did. And the flip side of that, in Arrow Rock last year, we saw very, very few kokanee. I think a big part of that was just the lack of fish that had come down from Anderson in 2023, so we didn't see a lot of adult kokanee in Arrow Rock in 2025. Now, this year, Arrow Rock does seem to be fishing a little bit better. I think Arrow Rock is still going to be a little slow for kokanee this year, but much better than it was last year. Lucky Peak, I expect to be similar to what it typically is. It's always, for me, been at least a little bit hit or miss. Now, Payette, on the other hand, Payette fished pretty well last year. However, in the fall, the biologist was doing his gill net survey on Payette Lake, and the numbers that came to the gill net were much lower than they've been in previous years. So what I would expect for Payette Lake this year is I think it'll be decent fishing, but I don't think the numbers are going to be what they were last year. I think we're going to see fewer fish than we did last year in Payette. We may see some bigger fish, but I don't think we're going to be catching limits a lot of the time in Payette. Now, we will see as the season progresses. There may be other reasons why you didn't get fish in the gill netting survey in the fall, but that's what it's looking like at this point. And as the spring progresses, spring and summer progresses, we may see more results for Payette and have a better idea. But that's what it looks like for our 4 reservoirs here in southwest Idaho for the 2026 season. So as we finish up this video, this is the last fish of the day for us. This was kokanee number 18 in the net right there. So now we are done, and there's our catch for the day. We did very, very well that day. You can see one little one at the top that was caught early on. And I don't release kokanee, so we did have one small one, but the rest of them were pretty nice. You can see right here with a measuring tape, they were all between 17, 18 inches for the most part. And they all were right around 2.2 pounds. And that's with my little fishing partner. Like I said, she was 5 at the time. I kind of missed that little girl. She's growing every day, but that's what happens. So thank you for watching Idaho Hook and Hunt, and we will see you next time.